Hey, this is Jen Cohn, and you are listening to Monday Morning Critic.
Jen, so for those listening, your husband is Robert Siegel. He wrote the masterpiece, The Wrestler. We're going to get into a few of the other entries that you are also involved in. In November, he was on the WTF podcast with Mark Maron. Will you later be gloating that you were on a Monday Morning Critic to him as you see him passing? Will you be rubbing it in?
Obviously. What am I, chopped liver? This is obviously all I will talk about.
Yeah, and
Naturally.
what a wonderful interview too. But Mark Maron is amazing. What a wonderful interviewer he is.
He is. He's incredible. I've been such a fan for such a long time, and it was a really thrilling moment when Rob got to go in and talk to him. We were both really excited for him. And then he gave him a mug. He gave him this awesome handmade mug with his cats on it.
Wow. Yeah.
I know.
And it was really, it's one of those interviews that like you could honestly, like, I felt like I was listening for 10 minutes and it was over, but it was like over an hour. It was like, I think an hour and a half or something, but like, it was just insanely listenable. I have to ask, where did you go to school, Jen? I was looking, I couldn't find it. I know you have a master's in fine arts or a bachelor's in fine arts.
I have a BFA. I went to Emerson College in Boston.
Oh, nice. I went to Northeastern, so we were kind of neighbors.
Did.
Yeah. So
we were neighbors. So then did you go to St. Botolph's? Because like on Botolph Street, that was sort of the meeting place where my Northeastern friends and I would like go and have like brunch. There was that cute little area right over there.
I don't know how you are, Jen, with cities. I was not good with cities. Like I always felt like I could never sleep. I always felt like people were yelling at each other. It was like people were just got done drinking. It was 3 a.m., 4 a.m. Like the city with me is like, it was hard for me. Like I know you're a New York City person, so you must be used to it at this point. But do you kind of know what I'm saying? Like I feel like the city was always, it was never like settling. It was never like, there was always something going on, noise, or I don't know.
See, and for me, I always say Boston was my city with training wheels. Like that was like my get ready to move to major cities. I have, with one exception, when Rob was shooting Pam and Tommy. Other than that, I have lived in cities for my entire life since. Like I can't bear to not live in the city. I love living in the city. And I've lived in cities abroad. I've lived in Paris. I lived in London briefly. I've spent the vast majority of my time in New York City, but then lots of long stints in LA. I love to live in this city. And when I go spend extended periods of time in either the suburbs or in the country, it's almost like I don't know what to do with myself. It's like I'm good for the weekend.
Yeah.
I'm great for the weekend. But like once we get into like beyond a week, like, what am I doing here? Get me back to the city.
I get it. And I always knew I was in the city because when I would come home, because I bought my parents' house, but it's on a cul-de-sac. It's very unlike the city. The silence was like deafening. You know what I'm saying? I was always hearing noise. Then when I came out of the city, I was like, this is kind of irritating too, because it's radical the other way. It's like now the silence is almost deafening.
It is. I think it's radical either way you go. I mean, but you have to find yourself like where you're most comfortable and where you're best fed. Like my parents love to hang out in the city, but they've always lived in the suburbs, and like they've had no pull to live in the city. It has no allure. They always say they need some grass and some trees. But for me, like to not have some horns and to not be able to walk out of the door and like go do the things I want to do or get the stuff I want to get is very alarming. I mean, even in LA where you have to drive so many places to get there, like I only ever want to be in neighborhoods where I can walk to get stuff or walk to do things. Yeah. I like to be on the ground.
I get it. I get it. I mean, we're 8 minutes in, and you must think I have issues because I've complained about the city. I've complained about I mean, it's like, so I get it. But you are kind of, for those listening, a jack of all trades, right? You have a wonderful filmography, which we'll touch upon, obviously. But you're a streamer. You have a foot in fashion and trends. A producer, actor. Can I throw a musician on there too, Jen?
Do you know you can actually? Mm-hmm. I don't play any instruments, but I do sing. Since I'm a kid, since I'm a teenager, I've sang in like punk bands, and so yes, so I do periodically sing in bands. I actually just got called about doing a benefit, but I think it's going to be on the same day as the GLAAD Awards for Welcome to Chippendales, because
Yeah.
Welcome to Chippendales was nominated for a GLAAD Award. So I'm waiting to find out if our ceremony is the same day as the benefit. This is
Very
the
nice.
question. Yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. And I have to ask you for as far as influences as music go. And when I ask this question to other guests, Bruce Springsteen's name comes up a lot. And I have to tell you, Jen, I listen, you're gonna get mad at me for this too. Another weirdo.
Go ahead.
I get why I don't like, so I can get people go to his concerts like 200 times, 300 times. Like if it was the Beatles, if it was Led Zeppelin, if it was Aretha or even Michael Jackson, I get that. I mean, I get what it's not like Bruce Springsteen is terrible. I'm not saying that. I don't get his over the top appeal. Like I don't understand it. Like it's when people tell me they like the movie Clerks. Like, listen, I get why it's well done. I just can't. I don't understand it. Like I don't. Maybe I lack taste. Maybe what is the appeal?
Stop. Don't. Okay, first, don't disparage yourself. You are entitled to your taste, and you are entitled to have these feelings. Absolutely. As far as the boss is concerned, I love him for nostalgia reasons. Like he was such a soundtrack to different parts of my life. Like my parents always loved him. He had like so many hits right as I was coming of age. So like I was sort of grown up with him, but he isn't the Jen whisperer. He's not the one who like spoke to, but I know countless people where he has been like their whisperer. And like for Rob, for example, like Springsteen absolutely is the one who spoke to his soul. I think Springsteen was like an honorary parent for him, which for me, the equivalent was David Bowie. Like Bowie to me is the one who spoke to me. And so the fact that Bowie then covers Springsteen's Saint in the City, like when my husband and I were dating, the fact that I knew the Bowie cover as well as I did, and I knew all the words to one of Rob's favorite Springsteen songs, got a lot of cred because it was Bowie. So Bowie, it's Bowie all the way.
And that's an awesome answer.
Forever.
Bowie's phenomenal. But I get what you're saying about, because that's the same answer I've gotten from people. Like the Springsteen, they feel like speaks to them. His words are like he's speaking to them directly. And I get that. Listen, we all have our different tastes, but I don't know. I just don't get it. But
wait, so who's yours?
I mean, I'm more of a musical score guy, so I like John Williams or Hans Zimmer or Thomas Newman. Like I listen to them in the car all the time. But I don't know. I love Bowie. I love Led Zeppelin. If we're talking vocals, but I'm all over the map. So I was listening to an interview you did today. You didn't do it maybe within a month, and it was three guys that were like, it was a Overwatch driven. Like it was the theme of the podcast is they do things about Overwatch. It was a video game. These three guys were like, they were so over the top. Have you on, and you were so good to them. Like I don't know, like they were so like it was just such a I don't know. I like when people find their inner fan boy or girl, but they were so thrilled to have you on, and it was such a fun interview to watch because these guys were coming from such a place of passion, and you were just there for them and just providing a wonderful interview. I just was like, this is really a sweet interview. I liked it a lot. I just wanted to tell you that.
That is so nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
You know, I have had such an incredible ride with the Overwatch fandom. Like the Overwatch fandom and the gaming fandom in general, like during my ride through this, has been so overwhelming. It's been like nothing else that I've done. Like no other bit of work that I've done has like reached this kind of audience. And to find myself being a trusted adult in these rooms, particularly over the pandemic, it's what led me into streaming. It's what led me into talking to this audience. You know, I do a series called Ask Bird Mom that are real talk advice streams that generally are targeted at gamers. And they get to come on and talk because they don't have that many trusted adults who they think are cool and relate to them and are really here and listening.
Yeah.
You know, a lot of my styling and fashion work has been about connecting them with different designers from around the world and about styling them because they're really open and they're this enormous untouched audience. And I feel like a lot of big designers and big companies that have tried to speak to this audience don't quite know how and don't understand exactly the way in because they don't understand the demographic. And I find that being like straight up and enthusiastic and really present and loving and grateful with this fabulous community is the way to go. So I'm happy that you got to feel that from that interview. I liked those guys a lot.
And two things from what you just said. One, your Twitch, I love this, has a disclaimer that states that you are not a doctor. I love that you have to tell people that because I mean, not that you're not bright, but like I'm sure you have many degrees, but like I don't know. I was like, are there people that actually like? I mean, I know because you talk about a variety of topics. I get you have to cover yourself because you don't want people to say, "Well, listen, Jen said," I get it.
Zero medical training. No,
Yeah.
I mean, we get into real stuff. Like, we're
Yes.
not just talking about like little BS. We're talking about major stuff that's going on in people's lives and their
For sure.
relationships. And so I always encourage people to seek professional help if they're coming, into a situation that they can't handle.
Yeah.
And I'm happy that I'm an adult with like life under my belt and I'm present and I'm here for them. And I've always been like the friend that people came to talk to. So I get to be the one in the room who gets to talk them through these things. It's been really special.
Yeah, you're doing good things on that end for sure. When you started going to Comic Cons, were you taken back by how much your work affects others? We just talked Overwatch. I mean, I can name
Blown
12 others.
blown away. Blown away. I had no idea. I had done Avatar The Last Airbender. And I didn't know about the fandom then. And it wasn't really like a big fan con fandom at that point, back when
Right.
I did it. And then when I did Star Wars The Old Republic, I knew that it was a big deal, but I knew my character was a big deal and I knew people played it, but I didn't understand the reach. And it was only with Overwatch where suddenly I was just coming face to face with this fandom. And at that time, I was acting and I had a fashion Instagram, but nobody really knew how to find me. Like the
Right.
way that social media was working, I didn't realize I needed to be voiceover visible. Like being a voiceover actor, you didn't necessarily have to be visible the same way. And so the fact that I was like hunted down by people who like found me through my fashion stuff and put it together that I was me was really outrageous and really exciting. And now I've gotten to meet people all over the world. I have this like beautiful community of gamers who I really care about. And it's been very lucky. It's been lucky and special.
That's the ultimate currency, Jen. I feel like is like when your work affects people to that level. Like, hey, everything else is great that goes with it, but when you're affecting lives like that, that's a currency that's second to none.
Well, it's like with Springsteen. I mean, it's like what we're talking about him being an adult who speaks to your soul. I think when you're someone who's playing a video game for tens of hours, hundreds of hours, like, months on end, and you have, you call the character that you play the most often your main. So if you have a main, you're spending all of these hours where this is you at your most heroic. This is you slaying your dragons. This is you being the best in a group setting. And you have this voice in your head that's your voice.
Yeah.
So then when you get to meet the person who does that voice, it's a very intimate relationship. And I didn't understand any of that until I got into the Overwatch fandom.
That's awesome. So right now, one of the biggest shows, maybe the biggest show on TV, is The Last of Us, which was also a video game. Is there anything in your filmography as it applies to video games that you think would make a great show or movie?
Oh, well, I mean, the Avatar The Last Airbender, there's now the Avatar Studios. So
Yes.
they're going to be making a bunch more projects. I think that would be amazing.
Yeah.
What else do I think would make a great movie? Well, actually, there is a great movie in the can that I'm super curious about. I did this wild project this past summer. I worked on it all spring and summer, where I did a production of Hamlet in Grand Theft Auto.
Wow.
And it was, with these like esteemed, celebrated British stage actors. And I was the token American. And it was fascinating because, Shakespeare, when it was written, wasn't all highbrow and hoity-toity and wherefore art thou. It was like rap. There was like rap battles. It was improvised. It was loose. It was done in the round outside where the audience might have call and response moments and might throw things. And so there's real presence and this real primacy to it and the excitement of not knowing what was going to happen, that anything could happen at any moment in any production. And doing Hamlet in Grand Theft Auto is awesome. Like that. Because first you have to be like improvisational to get from place to place. You could be blown up or shot or run over or have something terrible happen at any given moment and have to be able to regroup and keep going. It was so exciting and so much fun and so present.
Yes.
So yeah, so then while making this, we had Penny Grills, who's a well-known documentary filmmaker. She shot a documentary and made a film of us making this, what's being referred to as the first production of Shakespeare in the metaverse, because it's in Web3, because it's a metaverse of sorts.
Yeah.
And so she shot this. So there's this film now with the British Film Institute that was made about this. So I think that that's going to be an amazing film project. I'm very excited to see it.
Yeah, how creative is that?
Yeah.
And, you know, for those listening, you know, we talk about your work, you know, a bunch of Star Wars. We talked Overwatch, World of Warcraft. I mean, if there's a video game that's been a top 5, you're probably in it. You mentioned Grand Theft Auto, Red Dead Redemption. I mean, it's like on and on and on and on. So is the process for voiceover work, as far as auditions, the same as on camera? I mean, I'm sure there's differences because of the nature of the
Not at all. In terms of auditions, not even remotely. I mean, for years now, I mean, since pre-pandemic, most of your gaming auditions would be done at your agent's office or at home. And I mean, really at home for the last decade or so.
Right.
And if you're working a lot, you audition all the time, and you have, you know, you for me, I have a little trick I do for myself where I'll do an audition and immediately forget about it. So you look at the script, you look at the sides, you deduce what you can about the character. If you're lucky enough, they'll send you a drawing of the character. And so from that, you can figure out how to hold yourself physically and what they might sound like. And then you just have to have your acting chops and go for it. And you do voices either for just a string of lines, or if there's a scene laid out, you might just do the lines of your character in the scene. And then you send it in and you have absolutely no idea if it's something, if it's nothing, if it happens. It could be months before you hear back if you booked that job.
Yeah, that's a great answer. And you know what? Some people like your attitude is a very healthy one when it comes to that, because I feel like if as an actor you could just keep looking at your phone, I mean, it become a very dangerous thing too. Your attitude is a very healthy one, I think.
Thank you very much. I didn't do it on purpose. I think that it was some sort of self-protective mechanism. But yeah, it's been, I literally, if you ask me what I auditioned for earlier today, I won't remember. Like I'll have no idea what I read for. And then every time I book something, it's a surprise. So that's nice.
Yeah. I opened the interview by calling The Wrestler a masterpiece. Your husband wrote it. You were in it. Do you agree with me?
Are you kidding?
Yeah.
Are you kidding? Yeah, no, it was genius.
Yeah.
You know, he and I had a lot of fun while he was writing that. It was like 2 years of research. And so we had to go to all of these wrestling matches and like church basements and like in Kiwanis clubs and all the way in like far-flung areas. We had to go to an ultra-violent match once in Philadelphia where a bulldozer like drove through and we had to pick up our chairs and run. Like we had such a wild time, like diving into the belly of the wrestling world. That's not just the WWE, like the small stuff. So yeah, it was an outrageous ride. And then during that shoot, we had a really fun time because it was the first big shoot of something of Rob's. So my family kept on crashing the shoot. Thankfully, the director, Darren Aronofsky, was very generous about letting my family like storm the castle. So like all of my family have cameos in that and family friends. It's very close to my heart.
Yeah, and I mean, there's so many great performances, but Mickey Rourke was, he just reminded people, look, I'm a pretty good actor. Like, I love those types of like out of nowhere reminding people, hey, I'm still here. I'm still doing a great job. And there's so many, Marissa, I mean, there's a lot of people that had great performances, and I don't know,
we had loved him so much. I mean, both of us had loved him so much, particularly in Pope of Greenwich Village. And it was like, you know, before The Wrestler, he'd sort of not been doing anything except getting into trouble. So we really wanted it for him. We were both really happy that he got it. It was written for him.
Yeah. And you mentioned earlier, Pam and Tommy, awesome show, wonderful. And you know, you're in that. Rob has a big role in that, as far as, you know, creating and fostering it. Just a
It was
really
his
fun
first
show.
television show. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And you know what I wanted to ask you was, this is not your first experience with Pam Anderson, right? There was on MTV. There was you were the voice years ago on I'm missing it.
It
Uh,
was on Celebrity Deathmatch.
Celebrity
It was one
Deathmatch.
of my first animation jobs ever. That, there was that MTV claymation show, Celebrity Deathmatch, and I was the voice of Pam Anderson.
Yep.
So yes, that is true. We thought it was very funny that it brought us full circle. That I had my dance with Pam Anderson, and then my husband did. And then what was very funny was that during the shoot for Pam and Tommy, I befriended Lily James' voice coach about how she was going about coaching Lily for it, and versus how I went about getting the vocal range and to get the Pam Anderson voice going. And
Yeah,
it was like,
yeah.
it was this very fun technical conversation. She was brilliant. Her voice coach is a woman, Liz Rosenberg, who's just a genius, who's like, she's coached everyone on everything. She's the best.
Yeah, and welcome to Chippendale. Same thing. I wanted to end the interview by talking about one of my favorites, all-time classics. Is Big Fan. I almost feel like Rob does not get enough credit for that. I mean, over the years, when people say, "What's a go-to movie that maybe is not on the you're thinking about all the time, but is like will catch me off guard?" It is Big Fan, because it captures how people feel about sports and how dangerous it can be. But it also has got some sneaky good performances. Like, listen, I get that Michael Rappaport can, he comes off, but as an actor, oh my God. Like Patton Oswalt, oh my goodness. I mean,
Right? Weren't
that
they?
movie,
They were brilliant, weren't they? I
oh
know.
my,
They were so brilliant. I know.
Kevin Corrigan as well. I'd be remiss if I didn't say that. I mean,
Oh
it's
my,
like
I love him. Yeah.
the movie caught me off guard, and Rob directed and wrote that, right? Do I
He
have that?
wrote and directed. That was his first film that he wrote and directed. Yeah. Yeah. That was and I executive produced that, and we made that movie out of our living room. was that was quite a time. It was amazing. That was like a barn raising, the making of that film. For a long time, no one would touch it because they were afraid that the NFL was going to sue, because we
Oh,
didn't want to make a movie that didn't actually call it the Giants and didn't call it the Eagles. And so there was lots of fear from big studios that something would happen, because everyone, like the industry, really loved it, and people kept on sniffing around and wanting to do it. But Rob really didn't want to do it if it wasn't realistic that way. And so finally, he got in touch with an amazing lawyer who had written the book about what was legal for usage and what was not. And he got the go ahead. And that's when we were like, okay, let's do it. Let's just make it. And so we
yeah.
made it. It was amazing.
What an authentic movie. And as EP, do you find, like, what is your role as an EP? Do you have creative say? Do you have, I mean, how does that work, Jen?
Well, it depends on, you know what? I think it depends on the project of who does what.
Right.
I feel like we all sort of took our titles in Big Fan that way. For me, EP was, I was fundraising, I was finding locations, I had a lot of hand in helping with editing the script and with sets. I was not on set for any of the actual, well, a little bit of I was at some of the shoots, but I wasn't location scouting because I was vastly pregnant at that time. I was enormously pregnant. So the all night shoots were not where I was. What else? What else did I do? I did a lot on that project. I had a hand with helping with the edit. It was a lot. It was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. So we talked about all the things you do. I mean, I feel like you're one of those people that always has to be busy, because I mean, you have so much, you have so much that you're doing. What do you, Jen, do in your downtime when you want to back away from the table and say, listen, I need 5 minutes or 10 minutes or 20 minutes to do whatever?
This is so funny you say this. I just have been like focusing on working on this. So my
Yes.
favorite things to do, I love to walk. I love to like go check out museum exhibits. I love to see shows. I love to eat really delicious food and try great restaurants. I love hanging out with friends. I love sitting on the phone. I love, what else? I'm also like a style person and a fashion person. So like I'm always hunting for a zeitgeist, whatever the
Yeah.
project it is that I'm working on. if it's in fashion, if it's in film, if it's in TV, if it's in, I'm always sort of looking for what are the things we all are connecting to. And I think that that's just something I do naturally. I'm always gravitating to that. So even if I'm just hanging out and having fun, that's what I want to do. I love hanging out with my kid. My kid is amazing. I didn't even say that. He fishes a lot. So we find ourselves fishing infinitely more than we would be fishing if it was not for our kid.
Cool. Very cool. And it seems like you have a very infectious personality, right? And some people have that, but I feel it's forced. You have it. I feel like it's who you are. Like, and that's the best thing. You know, it's
Thank
authentic.
You.
Yeah. My last question
Thank
to you is this. I'll let you go with this. Professionally, you're in Rob's relationship. So if you get an audition or a role, does he ever give you feedback and vice versa? Do you kind of tweak maybe when he comes to his writing or directing or whatever? Would you say, hey, how about this? Or what about that? Like, do you guys find yourselves
I would say yes.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I think that it's depended on which project of how much each other's fingerprints are all over it. I think on some of his projects, my fingerprints are all over it. On some of his projects, I've barely touched it, and vice versa. There are things that I've worked on that definitely have been like, oh my God, please look at this. What's the, or what do you think? And I'll want it. And then there are other things that I've done that it's been like, we really haven't had anything to do with it and have just enjoyed each other's final project.
Right.
It's really a blessing to have a creative hothouse and to have a creative partner whose taste you trust and whose impulses you trust and whose opinion you trust. Like, I think we trust each other's opinion above all others. So I know if Rob thinks it's good, it's really good. And he knows that if I think it's good, it's really good. And then we both like to make a lot of room for each other to make our stuff. So we both are we're very supportive of each other, following our path. So it's been very lucky.
Jen, you are very talented and very kind. Thank you for giving me some time today. I really appreciate it.
Thank you. It's been a pleasure. You're lovely to talk to. Thank you. I can't wait to tell him. I'm being interviewed with him on another podcast because they wanted to talk to us about being a creative couple.
Yeah.
But this has been so much fun. Thank you for asking me all those questions. I love it.
You have the best connection I've ever seen. It's almost like I'm looking at 4K. Like, I've never seen it like this before. Like, honestly, like, there's people that like it pauses and then it goes and then it pauses. It's just, your connection is perfect. So I know you stream a lot, so whatever you're doing is
I think it's because I have this this mad streaming thing. I actually tomorrow I'm doing the third part of a styling stream where we're going to be like staging a whole fashion show runway in my house with multi-cameras. So we got to have our quality going. So
very nice. Jen, take care of yourself. Thank you so much. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much. Take care. Have a good one.